clamp these down actually, and there's the inner and outer. It's hard to see. So, and then of course the center line. And I'll have to notch that. Now, so here are my examples. So there's from, I was supposed to say Bray and Scarf. Bray and Bray on how to build a Haven 12.5 footer. That's the diagram they show. And then here's the Art of Boat Building, Bob Emsner, and Dale Whiteling from Nettlesome. I don't have Jenkins Boatworks didn't do a layout picture that I could pull down. It showed just that he was using wooden dowels. These I think are about 6 inches, estimated from the ruler in the picture. These are about 2 inches. I'm going to be using something closer to 6 inches here. I mean, the problem is down here I've got, it's hard to see, but it's a very small region. So I'm probably going to put 2.5 inches on either side, so 5 inch, and then up here, larger ones, probably 6 inches, or probably at least 6 inches. Something similar to Nettlesome. The Art of Boat Building was, that's just too short. I want some structural support, given that this wood is moving. I mean, if the wood wasn't giving me any trouble, I'd be different. I'll probably be using, there's one option from Miles Craft, but I got this. It's a clamps around the board. Given that these aren't perfectly straight, I have to decide whether or not I really want to use these. I'll have to look at that a little more. But anyway, so we've got some options here. We're still working on the layout. One other thing, you'll notice this little joint here, the notch in the corner. The edge is right here. I've put it above the edge because since I lost like 1/4 of an inch, I can't believe it's the way it is, but actually it's been more than there, but since I've had to mill a bunch of width out of these things, they're not as wide as they were. I really can't go below this joint because this edge starts running into the edge here. So, but that'll be fine. I'll just keep that joint above there. Here's the layout for these. The joints are here, here, and here. And so these are, I don't have a lot of room, so I put 4-inch pieces in here, 2 inches, 2 inches deep and 2 inches apart, and then 3 8-inch pieces on either side, 2 in the top, and one on the bottom and the center, and then 2 6-inch pieces, one on either side. And I've just marked the positions and I've just laid these things out for effect. I've got to clean up the ends, or I used for the monster diagonal cutters, and it worked really well. Made short work of one 6-foot piece of silicon bronze. Anyway, so now the trick is to get the holes drilled for these. And I'd stay away from stuff in the middle. I've got the center board, which is going to be somewhere. I'm sorry, the tiller hole is going to be somewhere in here. I got to work that out. And then what I would call it on a bigger boat, the traveler, is 26 inches long, so 13 inches on either side of the center line is clear. And I think that's, and I've got some other stuff here on the sides, but that's clear. I am going to put some fashion pieces in, but I will put them in before, I mean, they're going to be out here. I mean, this is the inside line. So there's the, if I can get a picture of this thing. There we go. So there's the inside surface, which is bigger, and there's the outside. Fashion pieces are going to be even bigger than that. So I'm going to put some sort of, and the point being, did I draw a picture? Somewhere I drew a picture. I'll draw a picture. So here's the, no, nope. So there's the transom. There's the bevel. The planks come in like this. And I was advised to go straight in through the planks because going in sideways messes up the planks. That means if you want to come in sideways, you need to have a piece like this. You don't need stuff here, but you need stuff here. I got to sit and think about how much thickness I need. But so I'll just have to, when I attach so there'll be a bronze bowl here, and I'll just have to make sure I don't make it this big so I don't cut into this bolt here. Anyway, this is progress. Next is sorting out the holes. Once I get the holes drilled, then I can glue this thing together and start the bevel. That'll be its own issue. Here's the setup I've got. I'm drilling a 4-inch hole, which is a little more than 4 inches for an 8-inch bronze rod. Got a 1/4-inch bit. This is I've got it lined up. There's the line, and then there's, in the background is the line for the bit hold, the hole. So I tightened it up most of the way, but since it's a little bit out of square, I got it close, and then I clamped this flat, and then I tightened up a little bit more so that it's well centered as possible. Anyway, I've just got to figure out how well lined up this is. I guess just laying it out. So I'm going to go ahead and drill some holes. At some point, you just have to drill holes. And I'll try to cut this. with one hand. If I go too long, I've got the ratchet set at 50%. It'll do that so that it won't burn the wood or the tip. Sorry about that. And so there's the hole. Pop this puppy off. And then I check the edges. They're slightly off center. It's 3460. And then this is a little bit bigger, 35. So they're all slightly back off center, but they're I'm coming in the same face on each one, and so far they've all been very close. I've got all my rods there. The fit is very snug. I think I'm going to give it just a little bit of a smoothing. I don't want it so tight that it splits the boards, and it is pretty tight. Seen people banging away on these things, and every time they hit, I'm waiting for the board to split along the length, and I would be very unhappy with that. Anyway, next stop, testing these and gluing for epoxy. As I'm getting ready to do the epoxy work, I had a conversation with a friend down in Virginia near Norfolk, and one of the things he recommended was that I want these to be loose, not driven, so that I can epoxy them in place. So I've gone through and I originally drilled with this long machine bit and put tape on to keep the depth right. And then I just now went through all the holes, which were tight, and used a 1/4-inch spade bit. There is it. There it is. And just run that puppy down in there. And then, I don't know if it's going to show anything now, but I put this back in and ran it down. And when I ran it for just a few seconds at the bottom, or just a second at the bottom, and then pulled it out, still running, all the dust that had settled to the bottom came out, or at least most of it. So there's not a bunch of stuff clogging the bottoms. The one good thing about this is that I'll be able to fit check this, and I'll still be epoxying these in place, and they're not that loose. Now, some might say, well, you've lost the center, and I may have to clamp these surfaces. I've got several clamps, or I can use boards, but I don't like the idea of driving pins, these drifts in there. His comment was, and it was very interesting, he said, in the old days, they didn't have magic epoxy. All they had was the drifts were part of what was holding these things together. And he's also recommended that I put some grooves in this so that the epoxy will have something to bite onto. So here's the fit check. I've got this sitting on my saw stop, and it's all sort of balanced on these two cabinet clamps, and then these are on top, and then I've got clamps here pulling the edges down on the onto the bars, and then I've got these long clamps here. I've got to cover everything with plastic, with the plastic tape, packing tape, and I've got all these marks here. So these are where the brass rods are. And so I'm going to get an eraser out and erase everything that crosses a joint. Erase this. I don't want epoxy getting on top of the lead, not being able to erase it. I'm also going to put blue tape on the surface. I've cut these things really close, so I don't want to have to get in a situation where I have to grind a bunch of epoxy off the surface. Plus, I'm going to be sealing these, but I don't want to do that yet, in part because I got all this stuff here, but I want to get this thing glued up first. I'm still trying to decide about epoxy. I'm looking at 105 with 105 with the slow hardener. I got some real slow hardener, but I don't think that's appropriate for this. The other alternative is the G-Flex 650. I'm trying to decide which way I want to go. I was thinking of the 655, which is really thick, and because I am going to epoxy the bronze rods into the drift holes. And so anyway, I still haven't decided how I'm going to do that. Last thing, right now, besides erasing these marks, I'm going to go ahead and disassemble this. I need to scuff the edge with 80 grit sandpaper. I also need to wipe it out with solvent. Even if I only use the 105-206, I'm going to treat this like a tropical hardwood, which is part of the reason I'm thinking about using the G-Flex, and also the reason besides having to put glue in there, I'm going to put grooves in the bronze drifts, and then I'm also going to sand the surface, scuff the surface, and then wipe that down with a solvent, whatever solvent I end up going with. Probably going to be acetone, but and using paper towels, not rags, especially if it's the G-Flex, but probably do that no matter what epoxy I use. Here are the bronze drifts. You look close, if I can get it to focus. Come on, you can do it. Yeah, you can see they've been scratched significantly. They've got grooves in them. They're not uniquely spaced. I just kind of put them on. You can see I've put tape on, it's like 1 and 2 inch tape on right on the edge, so that any epoxy that spills over will go on the tape. Hopefully not get on the I don't want any epoxy on the wood. I'm going to be sealing these with easy seal, but I've got to do sanding. I've got to get the pencil marks off here, but that's going to come after they get the bevel on. I've got the top board and the first board and the second board. I've got thickened epoxy in the holes, and then I've got to prime the drifts before I put them in, and same with this piece. I'm going to put these two together and then fit these two pieces together. Here it is, glued up. The dark patches here are places where I've just done a final cleanup with alcohol. This is the outside surface. On the inside surface had some, I couldn't get to it very easily, but I wiped underneath here as best I could. I'll have to sand. Most of that's below decks, hopefully anyway. So I had a conversation with West Systems. And they said I was going to use G-Flex epoxy, and they said for Sapele you don't need to bother. And so I used 105 206 hardener, the slow hardener, and 406 thickener to do the bronze drifts and the holes that they were in. He said moderate clamping. So hopefully that's moderate clamping. And then to pre-wet the holes. And so I did that. The way I did it is I put these two together, or treated the surface and the holes on these two pieces, and then these two pieces, and put them together and held them in place with a couple clamps temporarily, and then treated the holes and surfaces between these two pieces, and put the whole thing together. I was trying to use the epoxy that I mixed up at the start for the whole thing. It started to gel, so I had to mix up a second batch for the center joint. Let's see, I did 4 pumps the first time for the joints, and 3 for the one with the for the drifts with the colloidal silica 406, and then 2 pumps for the 406 alone for the last batch. And I used 406. I managed to get some of this stuff before it's gelled up now, but I managed to get some of that in there. And I was working frantically at the end because the stuff was starting to harden up. And then I just used regular 105 206. So, we'll see how this works out. I've been stressing over this for several months. So I'm happy to see that it's finally together. Hopefully I won't be weeping in the morning. So it's about 8 o'clock the next day. It's the 30th of September, 2025. I pulled the tape off last night, and I couldn't get the thing up in the air, but I did pull off most of the tape. Underneath. I'm concerned it's going to have a line. You can see it right there. We'll see how it... I had tape in there, and that's going to broaden the joint. But I didn't crank on it really hard because they said don't crank on it too hard. Hopefully it's in one piece. I don't think it's going anywhere. I mean, I got 6 8-inch bronze rods, 2 6-inch bronze rods, and 2 4-inch bronze rods. You can see I wiped up, you can see this stain here from where I wiped alcohol. I used alcohol to wipe epoxy off. Hopefully all that's going to sand off. We'll see. This stuff is pretty, I can't really exactly tell, but it's really flat. This is the outside, so this is the side I'm most concerned about. We'll see how it looks in a little bit. So there it is with all the, this is the back side with all the tape removed. You can see a little seam here and here. I'm not sure how much of that's going to remain after the sanding. And there's the outside. So as you can see, I've got some staining from epoxy here and here that I'll have to sand out. I'm so close. I'm not going to do much sanding. Matter of fact, I'm probably not going to do any sanding until I get the bevels cut, because this is, although I may want to make sure I can get this out, I do have 2 sides to work with. This is my preference for the outside. This will still remain if it's, so I do have to get rid of this stuff. All this stuff here, and I just don't want a lot of epoxy in the grain because it yellows in the sun and I'll have trouble sealing it, so that may be an issue. But I got a good 1/16 to sand off, or better part of a 1/16 to sand off, and not paying attention to my filming, so I have no idea what it was filming I'm looking at. One of the things about doing these videos is you have to look through the viewfinder. Anyway, it's solid as a rock. Thank God that's done. TTFN.